I just want to make another video about Diddy. Well, it's not really about him because I don't know him. I don't know anything about what's going on. I know when I first heard stories about R. Kelly, I kind of didn't really believe them. You know, I found out that I was Christ or God in 2013, and I knew I was a Leah, and I was saying that I was a Leah and everything, and he dated her for a while, and then all these stories started coming about, and I felt like maybe it was just a build up to something. And then I saw the testimony of his wife and realized that this probably wasn't a build up, that maybe he was just not a good person, and that maybe they getting with him was more just to show how when you're 15 you can't tell the difference between a good and bad person. So I kind of went along that lines and kind of ignored him for a while, and the next thing I know, he had been in prison for over a year, and then he'd got a 30-year sentence, which I thought was absolutely crazy. You know, even if he did mistreat women or take advantage of his fame to get singers into bed, which I think he did. To think that 30 years in jail is a fair sentence, I just feel like that's insane. You know, that's absolutely insane. There's this 364 years in a days in a year, and to think that he's going to be suffering every single day for all of this just because of a couple of people who he slept with and forgot to ask the name or ask the age of the people who he got with. And but yeah, I think he probably did some stuff that was bad, and he probably did deserve a couple of years. And I'm wondering if it's the same kind of thing with this guy. But I'm also wondering at the back of my head, is he even in jail? Like, do I have any physical proof that he's actually in jail? Do I have any proof that this is actually a true story? You know, the media love to sensationalize on singers and celebrities and people with high profiles, and Diddy is, I guess, one of them. I mean, he wasn't that famous to me because I wasn't really following him for most of the last 11 years. It was only 2 years ago that I started following him because I named him Angel of God the Father, and yeah, I was showing support towards him, but maybe my higher self was just tricking me into showing him support so that he would try and build up his profile just before this whole collapse, or maybe he found out 2 years ago and then built up his profile, and then the media just kind of crashing it because of his angel name being Angel of God the Father, which is kind of representing, well, it could represent two things, like a guide for God the Father, as like a test to see what people are like and stuff. I mean, for me, I don't know what his crimes really are, but they've said sex trafficking, but they've also said that it's the definition of that is just taking prostitutes from one state to another. If these prostitutes are willing, if they want to work in California rather than but live in Florida, and he's offering them free travel, free holiday, free stay, I don't see how that's a crime. So I'm just like, I'm very confused about that. Like, why is that a crime? If these prostitutes are sleeping with people who are unconscious and have taken overdoses and are half passed out or not in their right state of mind, then technically the sex traffickers who you're posing up as victims are actually perpetrators. They're actually the ones that committed crimes. You know, it's even if you're being paid £300-400 to have sex with someone, if you know that you're being paid £300-400 to have sex with someone who's unconscious or who's been taking drugs and isn't in the right mind to consent or isn't able to consent because of being half drugged or whatever, you know, if that's the case that they're in, then these prostitutes are criminals, and they're not victims. So why are you calling it sex trafficking and trying to make out that these sex workers are victims when really they're having sex with people who have been drugged and unconscious? So I'm confused about what's going on here. Like, it doesn't sound, you know, it doesn't sound plausible that the people that are being drugged are supposed to be just people in the party. They're not supposed to be people that have been drawn, unless I know there was one case where someone was taken from one state to the other for a recording and for a music recording, and maybe that was the intent, and it turned into something sexual because they were turned on by the conversation and they were getting on well, And I just know that humans in this world are so horrible. You know, I'm keeping myself in isolation. I'm keeping myself away from people because I don't like people here. I feel like there's so many liars, so many people that just say whatever they want to get attention. But I'm also confused about that because these victims are not coming forward. I don't know who they are. I know Cassie is one of them, and maybe she is. I'm not saying she isn't. But yeah, I'm confused. I'm confused about the whole thing, and also Diddy had plenty of time to explain himself on his social media platforms, and he didn't. Why didn't he? You know, if he's got loads of people coming forwards and making all these allegations, and he knows it's actually going to go to court, why would he not explain himself? You know, on this party we had a good party. You know, showing it. That's what I would do. If someone's accusing me of doing something that I didn't do on a party, and I know that I didn't do it. I would say, well, this is a party. This are the pictures from this day. I was drunk that night, and you know, I would try and explain myself a little bit and try and explain the party and explain my side of the story. But I'm confused about this case because I'm not really hearing either side of the story. I'm just hearing whatever's on that form is just like the lawyer's perspective from people who weren't actually there and don't actually know what's going on, and they're saying sex trafficking, but it's just like, but I thought these girls were just like people you picked up in a party. So if they're people you picked up in a party, why is what's the sex trafficking? If it's the prostitutes of them, or if they're having sex with unconscious people, then they're not the victims. They're the perpetrators. And so I'm confused about the whole thing, and it's just making me feel like the whole thing's fake, and just done for media attention or gains to try and make money out of the story. You know, Diddy does have a film company thing, and so. But I don't think it's the film company that would be making money out of this. It would be things like YouTube that would be making money out of all the conversations of people making videos about it, and just the hype of having just getting loads of people interested in the story. I think that's who's benefiting from this. So I don't really know. You know, and because all the pictures you see of the courtrooms are just of you know, if this whole thing was just a fake thing, I just don't know. It could be, you know, he might not even be in jail. He might be sitting just hiding in a house somewhere, whilst this but I would like to believe that things are building up to me being saved. You know, I've known what I've known for such a long time, and I can't get anyone to take any interest in me, and I can't get anyone to take an interest in my story or my life because I'm not famous, and I can't even get people to take my beliefs seriously because people just believe that I'll never be famous, and therefore nothing that happens to me makes any difference to anyone. You know, if I'm saying that I'm God, it's not going to go anywhere because no one's going to promote it, which right now seems like the truth. So I'm constantly looking for evidence that people know, and constantly looking for evidence that people are going to expose the truth, and I'm seeing tons and tons of songs about it, and the you know, the religious people are all preaching about it, the rapture of the bride and stuff. But are there loads of videos about it, or am I just typing in Bride of Christ and just seeing the couple of videos that there are? Because there isn't actually huge amounts. You know, if I look up loads, there's about 20 people online talking about it, and those are the videos that I'm watching because those are the videos that I'm that are coming up on my search, and therefore I'm just like, I'm confused. But I know that they're believing in something because there must be some truth to it, and I'm hoping that I want to believe that whatever's about to happen is going to be so big and so great that it will make the prison that I've been living in for the last 10 years feel worth it. But I just, does this Diddy case have anything to do with helping me? You know, I mean, he represents a group of people who I don't like, that I want to imprison, that are just lying about God, lying about knowing. That's who he represents. He represents people who promote God the Father and just talk lies. I mean, I know there's a few that worship that represent things like that, but and they're not going through, there's angel of the Lord I've got, but the thing is, the angel of the Lord can mean me or can mean a different Lord, so he wouldn't be going through this kind of thing, whereas angel of God the Father, this is a specific title that is against me, and therefore all this media about him going to jail and it could all be spiritually linked to the people who worship God the Father, and kind of almost threatening them by saying, look, this has happened to Diddy, and when his hidden name gets exposed as being angel of God the Father, this is going to happen to you. You're all going to be put in jail for promoting a male god, and for using your male god, your religion, as a way of putting down women, which is, women have been put down throughout the whole timeline. Women have been mistreated and turned into objects, turned into, you marry them and then you have to stay with them for the rest of your life. And if you cheat, well, that's fine. But if they cheat, I mean, it says that the whole society is built to promote men and to help men and to forget about women. So the whole society has been like this. And the reason why this sexism has been formed is through God the Father. And so the fact that his title is specifically angel of God the Father, he can represent people throughout the time who have helped and guided and given power to this male god, and through this male god, they've managed to put down women and say that women are just made for men, because that is how God wanted a partner, so women just represent God's partner, where it's actually the other way around. And therefore his positive name represents a specific thing, and no other angel really represents that specific thing. So if there was going to be a false story, a false narrative around someone where that shows his badness, this Diddy would be that character. And when it comes to his personal life, I do think he comes off as quite mad, but and therefore, if he has been, I don't know, you don't really want to have sex with people, but if you're drunk, you'll be more tempted to. And so if he has been giving alcohol or strong alcohol to people and getting them in bed because of them being drunk, they need to take some responsibility themselves, because partly if you're at someone's party and they're giving you lots of free drinks and you're getting more and more drunk, but sex isn't the worst thing in the world. But being locked up in prison for a very long time, I think I would love to see a world where it was easier to get into jail, but the length of time that you spend in jail is actually a lot shorter. You could spend a year in jail. That's 364 days in jail, and you could come out a completely different person. You've had your rights taken away from you, your freedom taken away from you, not just for a couple of nights, but for 360 nights. And I don't think people realise how awful jail is. I think it's because the level of human on earth is just so stupid, so dumb, so ignorant, only able to understand things from their own perspective. This is why I don't think people in government should be earning huge amounts of money, because by earning huge amounts of money, you can't see the real problems. The real problems are the real problems that people who are on low incomes face, or high income, Middle East. If you're on £40,000, £50,000 a year, you're going to face a certain amount of issues that you can't solve because money is not there. And if you're earning 170,000 a year, you won't be able to see the real issues and the real problems. Why? Because money is not a problem for you. And therefore, I would love to create a government where, if you want to earn money, you have to go somewhere else. But if you want to work in the government, you have to put aside any money. Even if you have £1 million in your account, put it in some sort of trust fund. You're not allowed to access it. And you're not allowed to. You must live off 40,000 or whatever the average income is of your country. That is it. And if you've got people in the mayors or whatever, of all the different areas, regions of that country, find out what the average income is, and you must agree that you must only live off and spend that much money. Even if you've got tons of money in your bank, you must put it into a trust fund until after your term is sentenced. That's how I would love to organise the governments, because for the governments are the people who are making the decisions and making finding out what's wrong. I think it's incredibly wrong if you're trying to make £3, or if you're trying to sell an item on eBay for £3. You bought the item for £15. You've worn it a couple of times. It's been in your cupboard for over a year, and now you just want to throw it. Now you want to give it away. You sell it for £3, but you spent £15 on it, so you're not making any money from it. But you want that £3, and then say you send it to them, and then they send it back, and they say, oh, it's got a funny smell, or it doesn't fit me properly. You've just spent you haven't made any money. You've spent £3 sending it there, £3 having to send the return journey. So you're in debt by £6. Why? Because you were going to sell an item for £3 when you know that you've actually paid £15 for it. So I feel like that's just such an unfair process. Now, if you're on £170,000, so what if you're in debt by £6? This means nothing to you. But if you're only making like 15,000-20,000 a year, and then you suddenly find yourself being in debt because of trying to make £3 on an item that you spent £15 on, if you're in that kind of position, then these problems are big. And I don't think people in the government can see what the real problems are. Why? Because they don't have these problems, because money is not an issue for them. And therefore, if I was to create a government in the future, it would be to say that anyone who works in the governments to try and work out what the problems of the state are, or the country are, they need to be on a low or middle, an average income, for them to recognise and understand what these problems are, and for them to be qualified to make decisions about what the laws should be. They need to be on an average income, and therefore I would definitely want to change that. And when it comes to, there's many laws that I want to change. I think assisted suicide is something that I also definitely want to change. I'm really hoping that when I get to 60, I'd be allowed to commit suicide. And with help from a doctor. I'd take it tomorrow. I'd take it right now if it was available to me. So I might even want to change that to make it available to any age. But yeah, this world is just so horrible, and it's full of liars. And and I've watched a video about someone who was talking about masculine and feminine, and she was talking as Diddy as being like the divine masculine, and then sort of talking as Cassie as being the divine feminine, and I just don't see that. I think that Diddy actually does have quite a feminine side, and I do see that Cassie has quite a masculine side, and so she was trying to portray her view on masculinity and femininity, and I don't see it that way. I feel like there's a percentage of masculine and feminine inside everyone, as there is inside me. I can bring out this masculine side of me when I'm angered, or when I feel like I'm confronted by angry people who want to challenge me, and therefore, yeah, to insult. I think to call Diddy the divine masculine is an insult to all males all over the country, because not all males are like that, and to call Cassie divine feminine, I just feel like there's, if you look at her music videos, she sometimes bring out a very masculine side, of like a strong side to her that's I think she would make a good male if she wanted to be that. So but yeah, there's a lot of things that I'd want to change, and I feel like a lot of people can't see the truth about how many people lie, and the media as well. A lot of the media stories I feel like are lying and stuff, and I just really hope that, I just want people to start talking to me about why I'm Christ, and I'm not convinced that it's going to be anytime soon. I would have thought that Diddy's arrest would be a sign that it is going to be soon, but what is the sign? The sign that it's going to be soon is where singers and celebrities start talking about the rapture of the bride. But technically, the rapture might not actually. Well, it's the taking of the female Christ. You come to her and take her, and then try and make her life better. I'm thinking if nothing happens this October, then I'm not even going to want to do this fake sacrifice that I was planning on, because the world is just so sick, and I don't know what